So in this video, we are going to look at factoring using something called the AC method. And when this is used, or when you want to use this, is when a does not equal 1. So remember that we have ax squared plus bx plus c. So our a term in these four problems would be our number in front of the quadratic. So whenever that number is not 1 and can't be factored out, the AC method is going to be your go-to. What the AC method is it's kind of a combination of your factor and sum method and the factor by grouping method, which are the two videos that we did before this. So what I want to do is I want to take A times C, which in this case is 3 times 8, and that's going to give me 24. And then I want to find the sum of my B term, which is 10. So let's do a little bit of highlighting here. So we're going to get rid of these for now. We're going to take our A times C. That's going to give us that 24. And then we're going to take the B term, which in this case is 10. So 3 times 4 is 24. And now we want to write the factors of 24. So as the factor sum method from earlier, 1 times 24 would be 24. 2 times 12. 3 times 8. 4 times 6. 5 doesn't work. And 6 we already have, so we're good. Everything in this problem is positive, so we don't have to worry about any negative signs. And now we can just add up our factors. So 1 and 24 gives us 25, which is not 10. 2 plus 12, is again not 10. 3 and 8 is not 10. 4 and 6 is 10. So those are going to be our factors. Now, it's not as easy as the factor sum method where we can just plug in 4 and 6 and now we have our answer. What these two numbers are going to signify for us is that's what we're breaking our B term into. So the 3x squared and the 8 are going to remain the same, but now instead of 10x, we're going to use 4x and 6x. There are, whether you put the 4 or 6 first, technically does not matter. Sometimes it will make your life easier, sometimes it won't. I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter, so I'm just going to write them at the order that they're in. So I'm just going to write 4x and 6x. Again, if you were to switch those and write the 6x first, there's nothing wrong with it. You'll still be able to follow the same method, so don't worry with which one goes first. So 4 plus 6, had I taken those and put them back together, I get back to my original. Now that we've used the factor sum method, or the AC method, kind of following the factor sum protocols, now you're going to go by grouping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my first two terms, this 3x squared and 4x, and factor out whatever they might have in common. All right, well, 3x squared and 4x, they have an x in common, a 1, and that's pretty much it. So these are going to become 3x plus 4. All right, so I took an x away from each term. The 1 doesn't change the coefficients, or 3 or the 4. Now I want to do the same thing with my second group. So we're going to take 6x plus 8, and we're going to factor those. Try and keep this all color-coded. 6 and 8, well, they have a 2 in common, so I'm going to factor out 2. They don't both have an x, so I can't take out an x. 6x divided by 2 would be 3x. 8 divided by 2 would be 4. As we did with the grouping method, when you get to this step, these two groups should match up. If these don't match up, something about your AC method process went wrong. You want to check your factors, you want to check your multiplication, your addition, all that stuff. But if these don't match up, something's wrong. So we're going to take that group, that 3x plus 4, we're going to write it once, and then the numbers on the outside, we're going to write in their own group. So that 1x plus 2 becomes its own group, and that's your answer. If I was to multiply this all back out, I would get to my original 3x squared plus 10x plus 8 term. All right. Again, it didn't really matter if I put the 6x and the 4x first. You're still going to use the same method. Sometimes putting that 6x first would have been a little more helpful. Other times, it's not going to give you a better answer. Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it doesn't. It's ultimately up to you. But just make sure that your groups work. And again, it's a combination of the factor sum method, which we've done before, and factoring by grouping. So let's look at number 10. I'm going to take, let's try and follow the same color code. I'm going to multiply 3 times negative 18. Unfortunately, now we have a negative 18 in this one, so it is going to change a little bit for us. We've got to be a little more careful. So A times C would be 3 times negative 18, which is negative 54. And then my sum is going to be 25. So let's stick to our highlighting here. So we need factors of negative 54 that add up to 25. So 1 and 54. Now it's negative, so one of them is going to have to be negative. So I'll write them twice with each option. 2 goes into 54 27 times. So again, I'm going to write them twice. If I keep going, 3 times 18 works. So 3, negative 3, and a negative 18 group. I can keep going. You get the idea with the factor sum chart. What I notice here is that since I need a sum of 25, I notice that these two are going to give me the sum that I need. So if I notice that, I'm not going to keep doing extra work that I know isn't necessary. So my factors are negative 2 and 27. The 3x squared, we're supposed to highlight this in green. Remember, that's where that 25 came from. And then the minus 18. I have negative 2 and a positive 27. The order doesn't matter, but what I like to try and do, if possible, is put negatives with negatives, positives with positives. So I'm going to put the 27x first, and then the minus 2x. If you put the minus 2x first, you'll still get the right answer. Just follow the steps and you'll be fine. All right, so that negative 27 is going to be what that split up to. So now we're going to take our first two terms, this 3x squared plus 27x, factor out what they have in common. So they have a 3x in common. So I would be left with x plus 9. Now the negative 2x minus 18, I notice that I have x plus 9. I have two negatives here, so I'm actually going to take out a negative 2 so that my signs match up the way I want them to. And now my two groups here match up, so that means I'm probably doing this correctly. So x plus 9, and then take your outside pieces, 3x minus 2, write those, and we have our answer. Remember the factoring by grouping, it was these two, gave us this, and then these two here gave us this here. There's a couple checkpoints as you do these problems. The AC method, when you're multiplying, if you don't get the sum you're looking for, then obviously something's definitely gone wrong, so you want to check your factors that you're listing. The other check is that when you get to this step here, remember that your two parentheses groups should match up. If they don't, something's been gone wrong. So just go back a couple steps and kind of retrace your work and see if you're, see if you can find where you went wrong. I'll do one more of these. Let's take a look at number 11. So here in number 11, we have our A times C would be 8 times negative 7, which is going to be negative 56. And then we want a sum of negative 10. So 8, negative 7 is where we got this from. And then this negative 10 came from here. So factors of negative 56. 1 and 56. And again, it's negative, so one of them has to be negative. It unfortunately creates a little extra work for me. We already used, that was 54. So 2 and 28. So negative 2, negative 28. 3 doesn't work. 4 is going to work, so it's going to be 4 and 14. So we'd say positive 4 and negative 14. Now we're trying to find negative 10. Again, once I kind of notice that I have what I'm looking for, I'm going to stop. So this is going to be negative 10, which works out. There are other factors you can try and list, like 7 and 8, but we have the numbers we're looking for, so let's stop there. Okay, 8x squared, and that minus 7 will stay the same. And now I'm going to write 4x and minus 14x. So that term got split up. All right, so let's look at our grouping now. So our first two terms, 8x squared plus 4x, those will have a 4x in common, and I'm left with 2x plus 1. Be careful because you factored out the entire term. Make sure you have that 1 left there. And then my second group, let's go back, let's highlight so we remember where this stuff comes from. My second group, this negative 14x minus 7, let's take out a minus 7. And again, we're left with 2x plus 1, which matches up as it's supposed to. So that 2x plus 1 and that 2x plus 1 match up. So we're on the right track. I'm going to write those as one term, or once, and then 4x minus 7. And that would be my solution. If you wanted to check these, I've mentioned it before, but you can just FOIL your final answer out, and when you multiply all these terms out, you should get back to your original problem. And that's it for that. The AC method, although it does tend to be a little tedious at times, the nice thing about it is it's the same process every time. So once you've learned the AC method and you understand the process, you should be able to repeat it without any issue. All right, just a matter of practicing, getting comfortable with finding the factors, and making sure you're using the right signs.